Overseeding for winter color. We're talking about mostly on warm season grasses, Bermuda grass in particular. I've done golf courses where Bermuda grass, we've overseeded with ryegrass to make it look nice, helps the playability of it a little bit. Home lawns do it just, sometimes you're keeping up with the Joneses because everybody else is doing it in the neighborhood, or maybe you want to be the Joneses and be the first one in your neighborhood to do it. I'm going to go over how to prep your yard when doing this, what grass to use, fertilization, and you got to be a little careful on fertilization. I'll tell you why, and I'll go over that. How to seed the yard, actually get it in there to where you have really good success and this stuff will come up the way that you want it to. How to get the most stripes. And when we're talking about overseeding, I'll go over the turf varieties you can use, but we're talking about really striping these things up and really making it pop. Because if you're going to spend this much effort and somewhat money on it, you really want it to look good. And I'm going to show you how to maybe stripe it up just a little bit, kick it up a notch, give you some pointers on that. And I'm also going to talk about turf colorants, which is something else that folks have used. And I'm going to give you my opinion of them. I encourage you guys to put down in the comments any fertilizer you've used, overseeding seed you've used in the comments, colorants you've used, anything like that. Put it down there in the comments. You may help me, and you also may help some of the folks that are watching the YouTube video as well. Always encourage comments. So anyway, now as far as the grass that we are going to be using on this, or what I would at least recommend to have, you've got basically three choices. You got tall fescue, you got bluegrass, and you got ryegrass. And I'll tell you two bad things about tall fescue and bluegrass and why I'm not recommending those. One, both of those will last well into the summer. You really don't want that competition. It's eventually going to look patchy, particularly you guys out west where it gets kind of dry and it gets really demanding. Bluegrass gets a lot of disease. Tall fescue will really hang around for quite some time, and you might get this patchy look during the summer that you really don't want. I'm going to go over some herbicides that you can actually put out on this to clean it up. If you want to go the tall fescue, would not recommend bluegrass. It's just too temperamental. It takes 30 days to germinate on bluegrass. It gets disease. Not, I stay away from bluegrass when you're overseeding for summer, or pardon me, fall and winter color. But really, it's down to ryegrass. And the reason why I like ryegrass is it germinates in 3 to 5 days. It's a quick germinator. Two, it gives you very good striping, and it really does pop it looks really good. Now, there's two choices with ryegrass. You can use annual or perennial rye. What's the difference? Annual rye is annual grass, meaning it will die out. In summer, it will die out. There's an advantage to that, and that is you generally don't have the competition going into the summer or late spring and into summer between your warm season grass and the annual rye. Drawback to annual rye is it doesn't really give you that really good deep green color. It gets a yellowing color. And the other thing it does, it kind of grows a little faster. Some varieties grow really fast. And they're kind of spindly looking, kind of like this. This is actually some ryegrass I actually spilled in my Bermuda grass. So this is what it sort of looks like. And you got to mow a little bit more frequently with annual rye. If you go with a higher quality perennial ryegrass, now I've used the Lesco. This is an Eagle ryegrass from Lesco. You guys have used different ryegrasses down below, and you leave them down in the comments. Love to hear it. But I have used this Double Eagle from Lesco. I do recommend it for home lawns that are just flat out going to have rye. I actually put this in my yard before I put the Bermuda grass in it. I actually had the Double Eagle rye, and it works really well. It's a good quality, good color, and it gives you really good striping. It's on Amazon. You can find it just about anywhere. So, and Lesco does a pretty good job on just about all their products. So anyway, now how to prep your yard. There's a little bit of a process, and I'll leave something with the University of Arizona down below. A lot of, as you know, many of you have seen my YouTube videos. I generally give kind of like a works cited, and I usually do a little bit of university research before I do these. Just sort of shores up what I've done over the last 30 years, and maybe give you an alternate reference other than myself, because I do differ a little bit of what University of Arizona has put together in the lower publication. But I have adopted some things that I really like what they've put together. One thing they recommend is raise your mowing height 2 weeks before you seed by 40%. What that is going to do, okay, you got typical Bermuda grass plant, okay? When you raise that up about 40%, so I'll give you a quick, let's say you're mowing at 2 inches, okay? You're going to go up to 2 3/4 inches, and you want to keep it at 2 3/4 2 weeks. When you do that, the leaf sheath here is going to go up just a little bit, but not too much to alter the plant to what you're going to do, hurt it to what you're going to do next. What you're going to do next is you raise it up, wait by 40%, wait 2 weeks, and then come in and cut it 30% less than what your original mowing height was. Okay, so you're going to go, for instance, from 2 inches up to 2 3/4, and then at day of seeding, you're going to go down to 1 1/3 inches. Okay, what that is going, if my math is correct, I think it is. But anyway, what you're going to do, basically up 40 and then down 30% less. You don't want to take any more than a third of the leaf blade off. You're going to go down 30% less than what your original height cut is. What that's going to do, that is really going to cut those leaves off. Okay, and that is going to allow that ryegrass seed to really work its way down there when you drag it in. Okay, and you're not going to go out there and scalp the grass and hurt it, but it's going to bring that leaf sheath up just a hair, and it's going to allow that ryegrass to really get down into that turf canopy really, really well, and you're going to have better germination out of it. I like what the University of Arizona has recommended there. Now, where I slightly differ, they say leave the clippings on the grass to serve as a mulch for the ryegrass. I would try to get that off your grass. I would not leave the grass on there because I think it's really going to disturb that seed from working its way down in there. Okay, it's going to impede it a bit. So if you can blow it off, that's fine. If you can bag it, that's great. But don't work yourself into a tizzy. But try to get that grass off if you can, as much as you can. Then here's where I differ. Drag it in. Okay, just me dragging my yard, and I use a drag quite a bit. Used to break up cores when I airify. I use it to drag in seed. Drags are pretty handy to have, and they can be just about anything. They could be a pallet. They could be a piece of fabric fence. Now, Amazon's got a pretty fancy one. If you guys, high-end guys, are watching this video, you can also break, if you get behind on your mowing, you can also break up wait till it dries a little bit and then break up some of these clumps, drag this over your yard, particularly Bermuda grass, guys, it doesn't stripe up that much. But these drags, here's one on Amazon, I'll leave a link to it down below. You can grab this thing and you can really drag this grass seed in. That's why you need to do this overseeding when it is bone dry, because you really need to get that seed down into that turf canopy, and that where it sits down in there and it stays reasonably moist down in there. You will have to irrigate a couple, 3 times for you guys out west. When you do this, that's the blessing about ryegrass is you get good temperatures. 3 to 5 days, it'll pop. If you keep watering it, probably that first 10 days after it pops, after that, you can back off on your watering a little bit. You should be just fine. That's all you really should have to do, unless you guys are in a really dry climate and you typically got to continue to water. That's one of the extra expenses when you go into with overseeding, is you may have to do a little bit of temperatures are cooler, but some of you guys out west that are really in an arid environment may have to may have to water a little bit. So anyway, but up 40%, down 30% lower than what it originally was. Try to get the grass clippings off of it, seed into it, drag it all in, okay, and then water a couple, 3 times a day, and it's not going to be much. You're just going to really just want to keep that turf canopy, that environment moist, and that ryegrass will pop up pretty good for you. Now, fertility. Thing is this. You should not, University of Arizona recommended not putting any nitrogen fertilizer 30 days out before you do this. And the reason being is they're trying to slow the grass down. They also recommend not watering your grass nearly as much. Okay, that's great. And I agree with that as well. One other thing I would caution you is, if you guys are going into dormancy, you do not want to put any nitrogen down at all on your Bermuda grass or any cool season grass, pardon me, warm season grass, pardon me, any warm season grass 6 weeks before dormancy. And the reason being is you don't want that vegetative, you don't want that top growth going on because it will compromise a bit your summer survivability and make it a little bit more susceptible to spring dead spot. I do have a spring dead spot video. You guys can check that out. Spring dead spot actually is a fungus that attacks the both zoysia and Bermuda grass. It really gets zoysia pretty good. It attacks the plant prior to dormancy, and then it doesn't, and really at the end of the day, it's weakened by the fungus, and then in the spring, you get these spots that look like this, and it grows in. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to lose a whole yard, but had a zoysia grass golf course in Louisville, Kentucky, had to really go out aggressively because they had it really bad, and pretty big cost to keep the zoysia going in the spring. They had big patches of it. Anyway, I digress. So, and that's where something that ryegrass can kind of help you out with a bit, with a little bit of that transition as that Bermuda grass starts to heal, or the warm season grass heals from any spring dead spots that you have. Anyway, but check out my spring dead spot video. It'll tell you how to handle that. Anyway, you don't want to put any nitrogen out on your yard 6 weeks before dormancy. You want to harden that grass off a little bit. So here's what I'm recommending as far as fertilizing the ryegrass that you put out. I generally don't like putting out fertilizers with a higher percentage of nutrient, more than 30%. But I'm going to give you this 4600 from the Lawn Synergy product at Amazon. This is about the only thing that I've found. And if any of you guys have found any just products with just phosphorus, or could be a phosphorus potassium product, leave it down in the comments. I'm curious. I've not been able to find anything. This Lawn Synergy is an 046. You can put it out. That will give you the seedling vigor that you need. Okay. Once when the Bermuda grass goes dormant, you guys can go ahead and go out with a nitrogen application if you wish. I don't think you're going to need it. I really don't. So, but if you want some seedling vigor, go ahead and hit it with the 046. You can probably put that out a ½ pound per thousand. You're not going to need a whole lot of it. That's all there is. You're just not going to need a whole lot of it. So anyway, so that's about it I would do for fertilizer. And that's going to increase your cost too. So do be aware of that. And, we're trying to do things not necessarily on the cheap, but there's no sense in spending a whole lot of money on something you want dead in 6 months or sooner for that matter. So anyway, now, as far as getting rid of this in the spring, there is a few herbicides. I got my notes here. I just don't want to forget anything. Oh, I almost did forget something. What's the rate? And here, that actually is a good segue into the herbicides. I have seen recommendations. I think Arizona recommended 12 to 15 pounds of ryegrass per 1,000 square feet. A lot. When I did the golf course down it was in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, I think we went out at 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So, that's a lot. Generally, ryegrass is seeded between 5 and 7 pounds. The reason why you want to go at the higher rate, this is the whole theory behind it. You put it out at a high rate. One, ryegrass is going to germinate. Just about anything you put out is going to germinate. When you see these weird guys put grass seed on cars, all kinds of weird stuff, and drive around with them with grass growing out of them, and that's generally ryegrass. It'll pop about anywhere. If you keep it wet, it'll pop. The thing is, if you go out at that 5 to 7 rate, it will mature over the fall and winter. And then when you're coming into spring, your Bermuda grass is now competing with a very mature ryegrass, and it can give it a pretty good battle. It can. There's a theory that went around when I was in NC State that ryegrass actually puts out phytoalexins. That actually, which is it's how a plant. It's sort of like the white blood cells of plants. Phytoalexins. They fight off fungus and insects and things like that with it. Anyway, so they put out phytoalexins that actually can suppress Bermuda grass. So anyway, Just keep that in mind. That's why they want you to go out at that 10, 15, 20, I've seen as much as 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. I think that is a boatload of ryegrass. So what happens is you put it out at a high rate, and then your ryegrass, it doesn't mature properly. It's sort of a stunted, like a it competes for light, moisture, and nutrients. It's sort of like not like, it sounds bad, but like not feeding a baby correctly. And then it stunts its growth. That's essentially what you were doing when you're going out with a high rate of ryegrass. Now, that's going to come at a cost. So what you could do is stick between that 7 to 10 pound per 1,000 rate of ryegrass. Are you going to have a more mature ryegrass coming in the spring? Mm-hmm. But here's where what I would recommend. Your additional cost of that much ryegrass is probably going to be offset by the herbicide you can use to knock it out. And the advantage of going out, and I'll give you some herbicides here you can think about. And the advantage of going out with these herbicides is you are also going to knock out, 2 of them, you're going to knock out the poa annua that's come up, if any has. 1, you're going to knock out the ryegrass, you're going to knock out any poa annua you have, and you're going to take care of any other weeds that you have. So there is some credence in going out at a lower rate of ryegrass and then coming through with one of these herbicides, knocking out your ryegrass, knocking out your weeds. You can probably go ahead and put out your pre-emergent herbicide for spring then at the same time, in the same act. So you're getting a lot done there. You might want to think about it. Negate is one of them that I got to admit I have not used. However, and this is where I encourage you guys to comment something you've used put it down below. Fertilizer, herbicides, whatever. See, I'd love to hear it. A lot of guys like Negate. It does control poa annua on the label, controls poa annua, will kill the ryegrass out, controls several other weeds. And the thing is, it's actually one of the cheaper options as far as that has pretty good control on poa annua for warm season grasses. So keep that in mind. Second one, and I've used this on my yard, is Celsius. And the nice thing about this is it comes in 0.22 packets. And most of these, you're also going to need a non-ionic surfactant with it. Probably usually I put out a half an ounce per 1,000 square feet. This one is what I recommend because most of the non-ionic surfactants I've seen in other places, it's usually like in a gallon jug and it's enough to last you for years. This one's, I think, 14 ounces, so it's not much. Anyway, you will need non-ionic surfactant with, I think, all 3 of these. Always check the label on these herbicides, but I'm giving you what, I have checked them, but make sure you're following all the label instructions because there are some subtleties I'm just not going to get into. And it's not going to harm your yard. Just make sure you're following the label. Label's the law. Anyway, so you got Negate. You're going to need a non-ionic surfactant. And then with Celsius. Used this on my yard last year on Bermuda grass. Very impressed with it. It has a very wide spectrum of control. It will knock out your ryegrass. Not so much for poa annua, but it is a pretty good product. It will hit poa annua, but the Negate I have heard does a little bit better job on poa annua. The other one is Certainty. That's the third one. Nice thing about Certainty is we'll control the poa annua. And reviews I've had, at least guys I've talked to them, maybe they haven't used a non-ionic surfactant. That's probably why they have not having a really good luck with Certainty. But it does knock out poa annua. It has a little bit broader spectrum of control than Negate. Okay, slightly. So that's why I'm kind of like the Certainty because of the poa annua suppression on it, or the poa annua control on it. So those 3, you could go out, put those out, mix it with your pre-emergent herbicide. Here's my pre-emergent herbicide video if you guys want to check it out. Put out your pre-emergent herbicide for that spring time, and that'll clean you up pretty doggone good. So anyway, now, as far as back to fertility, I almost forgot this. If you guys take your soil test. Here's my soil test video. I tell you where to get a soil test for less than $10, often for free. Generally, it's from your local university. how to take it, how to fill out the paperwork, how to read the results, whole 9 yards. So if you guys want to check that out, you may not need a bit of phosphorus at all, because phosphorus is generally potassium, which is that last number on a fertilizer bag, generally is not mobile in soil at all. The phosphorus will kind of hang around a little bit. Nitrogen will move quite readily, but we're not in the nitrogen. We're not really feeding with nitrogen until it's dormant, and then we can go ahead and feed the ryegrass. So anyway, okay, turf colorants. You see my face. I've actually tried to use them. Okay, I've fiddled around with this one, and I'm not picking on this one. You guys leave some comments if you have certain products that you've used and you've liked. Here's my opinion on colorants. There's actually a USGA article I'll leave down below on colorants. If you guys really want to get into it, look at it. I think it's very difficult for a homeowner to put them out with a backpack sprayer in a uniform manner. I've actually put them out with a sprayer, like on a golf course with a 20-foot boom sprayer. I think they go out much better with that because you can regulate it much better and you get a more uniform coverage. Because it's computerized. There's, on golf course sprayers, it's all computerized and you're going a certain rate. And if you even increase in speed, the pump takes over and the computer takes over, and it's very uniform. I think, in my opinion, that's probably where colorants come in. They're more of a professional product, for lack of a better word, than I've had. I wish you guys could leave pictures, so I'd like to see any of you guys that had good luck. I'd like to know what product you put out and how you put it out. I did it on my Bermuda grass yard a few years ago, and here's why it looked bad. Is because I'm in West Virginia. I probably have the most northern warm season grass yard in the country, and I'm surrounded by good tall fescue yards. People in my neighborhood keep my yard up. If you had a yard that you're the only game in town, and you don't have that side-by-side comparison between a really good tall fescue cool season grass yard and a yard that has a turf colorant, it probably wouldn't be nearly as noticeable, not as bad. If you have a neighbor that oversees in ryegrass, I don't think you're going to be happy with what you got. So anyway, but if you're the only yard on the block that does it, I think you probably could get away with it using a backpack sprayer, but just be aware of that uniformity level. I will also say, and you can see, I'm not trying to pick on this company at all. It may be as much me as it is anything else, but and there again, I'm trying to put out backpack spray. You really almost have to put this out, like I said, with some regulator. So, but it will stain the deck and it's out of your sprayer. I actually used. Luckily, I knew that going in because I'd put them out before, and I just used an old backpack sprayer when I put it out too. So anyway, that might be what that may be some of the. But I just caution you guys. I hate to see anybody. It's one of the focuses of my channel. I'm trying to save you money, time, and effort, and frustration, because I know all money and time are pretty precious, particularly for you guys that have a lot going on. So anyway, but that's my spiel on colorants. You guys have any comments on that? Positive, negative, leave them down below. I encourage you to do that. Okay, striping things up a little bit more. There are some stripe kits. Actually, here's one. Got a guy I know here. He's actually a local baseball coach. I just happened to see him in the parking lot. This is one that is on the back of a riding lawnmower that he uses for his baseball field. Essentially, what you're doing is you're putting some weight or some brush on the back end of the mower deck, and it just pushes that ryegrass, and ryegrass in particular will stripe up. Bluegrass will as well, but it will really stripe up that grass, really get the layer over. There are other stripe kits on Amazon here, and I'll put stripe kit down below in the first comment. I'll pin it so it'll be in the first comment with all these products. And Toro has one, John Deere has one, and I'll leave a couple more if you guys want to check those out. Now, I'll tell you a little hack or whatever you want to call it. When I had my ryegrass yard, and I actually went from ryegrass over to Bermuda, and the reason why, it was more of an experiment than was anything else, and I just stuck with it, and I like it. Here's what I did. What I did was, on the back of my I pushed mower yard. What I did was I got, and this is actually a brush, this is actually large brush for my, and I took these off. This is just on a typical brush you would have on a shop broom. And you can get it, try to get it about the size of, like I got a 22-inch mower deck. This one's a little wider than my mower deck. All I did was I got some self-tapping screws, okay, metal screws. And I put an L bracket. So you've got the mower deck here. So I'll put an L bracket there, tap into that, screw into this, and actually put that on the back of the mower with an L bracket. When you do that, this plastic, you're going to have to get an L bracket that has at least 2 holes in it so it holds this on there. Ideally, you might even want to put a bolt through it, and maybe with a large washer. So this way, because over time, you running over your yard, this will eventually wear this plastic out. It generally stayed into my mower deck fairly well. That pushed it over pretty well too. The other thing you need to do, you need to play with. You don't want it pushing down too far. On a riding lawnmower, it may not be that big a deal, but if you're pushing it and it's really pushing into the grass, you're going to get a workout. So you want to kind of play. You just really want touching the grass. It does not need to be really pushing down in there. But you can either stripe kit my little hack with the brush on the back of the lawnmower with some self-tapping metal screws, or yeah, and that works pretty. Any one of those work. Okay, that's overseeding warm season grasses for fall and winter color. Like I said, a little bit about me. I'm a 1994 graduate of North Carolina State. Been in golf course maintenance construction for over 30 years. I have a YouTube channel. If you subscribe, like, and hit the bell. If you hit the bell, one, if you subscribe and like, it actually brings me up into the, and if this has helped you, YouTube has more likely to suggest a video that's been liked, subscribed, and even commented on. So if it's helped me out, maybe it helps somebody else out. In addition, if you hit the bell, I try to keep things fairly topical. I'm a little, just a hair late, maybe on this video, but been a wild spring or fall. But if you hit that bell, it gives you a heads up of what of a video I've released. Generally, it maybe help you with a fungal control problem, or at least gives you a heads up it may be on the way, grubs, herbicides, or things of that nature. It might save you some time and some effort. And it's a video that I'm putting out, and I try to get it a couple weeks ahead of schedule to give folks a heads up on what they should be doing. But anyway, I'm agronomist Greg Phillips. Thanks for watching.